joining us. So again, for those that came in a little bit later, my name is Gabrielle, and I've been invited by the wonderful Nico to host this panel. And as you guys may have seen, this panel is about communities that were formed elsewhere, but decided that building physical spaces was important to consolidate our communities, and now designing eco-villages and other forms of communities to be grounded in place. And I wanted to share my story really quick to allow for some context of why this is relevant, and then be able to introduce each of our stories so that we can hear the similarities of this navigation or this tide that is happening worldwide, with experienced designers choosing to be less nomadic and grounding down into one place so that we can build something that's sustainable and resilient in the future. So 8 years ago, I started a company called Momentum Collective, and it is a hybrid of artists, musicians, healers, and digital nomads that choose and desire to work and live together. So we design these residencies, artist residencies, that are minimum of 30 days, where we co-create a very stable and powerful workshop schedule, where we start by meditating in the morning, going into yoga and movement, and then spend the afternoons working on projects together that have a similar and focused point. Whether it's circus or music or permaculture, we are a group of 30 to 40 people that live together and create projects together. And a few years ago, COVID happened, and it became very apparent that although we were thriving in our offerings and in our existence together, there was a high component missing, which was the sustainability in terms of food and water sovereignty, and to be able to ensure that we would be able to live like this, not just for our generation, but for our children's generation and the children after that, for multiple generations. So we decided to put our heads together and think of the important priorities to be able to have something that was less about going from place to place and blossoming certain locations and moving on to the next, and to really ground down in one location so that we could be able to focus less on our root chakra and the things that we really needed to do, which was having a roof over our head and being able to like feed ourselves and buying things at the supermarkets and making sure that 30 people were fed. And instead think long-term, build a garden and have our own well, and be able to have a program where people could come in and out that wasn't going to be so cutthroat, that coming in 30 days and having to go back to their lives. And so we decided to create a new project called Project Cup. And this one is based in Diamante Valley in Costa Rica. And the main factors for this was that it would be enough land where we would be able to have a farm, at least 25 homes, and to be able to have access to other micro communities around, so that we would be able to learn from those who have started something, and that would be able to share their resources, which are beyond just the food and the water, but also their knowledge. And so this is where I think this panel is really interesting, is that we have these amazing people that are also doing the same thing, grounding down their communities. And from what I see, we have a common thread, which is a love and a respect for the arts. And I had a chance, as I said, to look through some of the beautiful videos and websites that everyone has put out there so that we can try to understand our story, try to tell the world what it is that we're doing, even if it can be difficult to explain something that's never been done before. And I would love to actually give the voice to each person, instead of me going in and introducing everyone in my own take. I would love to hear from the source. I would love to start with Lola, which is the creative director of Hedonia in Mexico. and maybe give us 2 minutes of what your project is about and what is inspiring you to ground this in place in Mexico. So just like a brief overview, and we'll go project from project, and we'll dive deeper into the ties that bring us together. Is that okay?
Yes, it's okay. I'm gonna share a screen for a 2 minute video in the same time that I'm talking. Okay. Yeah. So it's 1 moment. Are you seeing my screen now? No. Yes. Yeah, is this one? Yeah, and then is yeah. No, you still see me, or you see the screen?
I see you and the screen, my love.
You see both. Okay. So Espérate, I'm gonna put this down.
Maybe just put it full screen. Yeah.
Sorry, full screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, correct. Okay. So, yeah. Let me put the volume a bit down.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't think you're sharing this sound, so don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, my name is Lola Toscano. I started Hedone, that is a non-for-profit organization to liberate pleasure and our movement at the same time. So we create. I felt very aligned with everything that you said, Gabriel, because we started creating these experiences that are for 5 days in different places around the world, to educate and raise funds to create an art weapon to fight genital mutilation. Okay, so that was the beginning, and then it came the moment, exactly the same that she said, that you want to focus in one place, also in the vision more in the future. And yet have this place where we can have our homes and then develop projects together and grow our food. Also, the time of the pandemic was very like with the feeling like, because the dream was before, but this moment was like we have to do it. How if another pandemic come now, and then only people that were living in community by this time were like the lucky ones, no? And yeah, we don't know what this is going to be in the future, and being with like-minded people is really precious and really end up in real happiness for the people, no? And this, now that you can see, this is my big passion. Also in my background, I was doing upcycling. You can see, I'll show you later. And this is something that moved me so much when I discovered the bioconstruction is like take the upcycling furniture in the next level of buildings, no? So it's like even more excited, and that's why the thematic of the project is about being a museum of bioconstruction. So pause the share. Okay. Stop
Time check. We're at 2 minutes and 15 seconds, so we'll come back to you as well. But I think that's a really great introduction, and it's extremely inspiring what you're doing. I think the idea of upcycling anything and using it as an art installation is something I very much resonate with you, because it is a very big Burning Man culture as well, to create art with nothing and like inspire people to reuse and upcycle their everyday items, and that's a truly revolutionary thing. So I'd love to dive a little deeper into that too.
Yeah, we come back next.
See that. Entonces, let's go to you, Mike. Mike is from Future Thinkers, and from what I understand, part of the mission is to help people wake up, evolve, and adapt to the changing world. So that is a really big statement. And I would love to understand how one of the biggest podcasts in literally future thinking is now looking into having their own home base and diving into some of like the smart village ecosystem design that is in place when you're designing this for your community. Can you give us a 2-minute overview of your vision of Future Thinkers?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's a really difficult thing to summarize, so I'll try my best. We realized someone was kind of analyzing the different levels of our project and said, we're approaching community from the head, from the heart, and from the hands. And I thought that was an interesting way to put it. There's like Future Thinkers and Portal DAO, which is our two main projects. And they're kind of head and heart. Like Future Thinkers has done a lot of facilitation, shadow work courses, sovereignty, personal development, resilience training, stuff like that. I would say it's kind of at the heart level. Portal DAO is about the overarching governance models. We want to rapidly prototype and experiment with different types of consensus and governance systems. We want to build in systems like ChatGPT to help people to get to truth quicker, to get to consensus, to start trusting each other a little better. So we're trying to build some tech in with the kind of heart-centered practices. And then the hands part is a couple of years ago, we decided to partially crowdfund the purchase of a 400-acre campsite in Canada. And, you know, there are a lot of projects like this doing it in Central and South America. And we wanted to more or less take the hard route by doing it in the newly communist Canada and the newly dictatorship of Canada. Yeah, we wanted to do it in a place where both the culture didn't quite resonate with it and where it would be bureaucratically difficult to do it. Because if we could get it to work in a place like that, then we could go to other places and do it a lot easier. So we've kind of taken this hard-nosed, resilient approach to everything that we do. Do the hard thing and everything else will be easier. So I think that's 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to know, when did you acquire the parcel of land? When did you begin?
2 years ago, but we really wanted to learn about the infrastructure ourselves. So I've been literally in the tractor and the excavator, like prepping land and, you know, dealing with floods and fixing septic tanks and stuff like that. So like, I wanted to learn all of these infrastructure level things, and so did the rest of the group. So we haven't really opened up very much to the community, although the campsite was already existing, and we get about 3,000 visitors, about 1,000 visitors a month, but 3,000 over the span of the summer months. So it's pretty busy and a lot going on there.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I think part of the learning curves here is to go through the challenges, and that's going to be one of the questions I would love to ask the panel. Is some of the most potent challenges that you've come across in your in creating and actualizing your vision, so that we can learn about them and see if there's common denominators here as well, because I'm sure you've gone through quite a few. Thank you. All right, so let's go with Matthew Lagomarsino. Are you there, Matthew?
Hey, y'all. Hey.
Hi, Matt.
What's up, guys? I go by, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, what do you go by?
Oh, I go by Raphael or Raph.
Raphael. Okay, perfect, yes. So Raphael, so curious about your project. My Burning Man experience, first time this year in that part of the world, and hearing the whispers of Fly Ripple and Fly Ranch, massive, inspiring project. How can you give us 2 minutes of the essence of what it is that you're building there?
Thanks so much. Yeah, and thanks for having me, y'all. So basically, my background's in systems ecology and art, and during COVID, when we heard that Land Art Generator Initiative was teaming up with Burning Man to put on a design competition for regenerative infrastructure, my friends and I were like, we were like, all right, what are we building? We wanted to do something with a garden, with green technologies, off-grid site, and our project Ripple just kind of happened. And it was a huge cumulative effort. But basically, you know, Ripple is this idea that we can get so much more done with humans as a conduit, and basically the physical site of Ripple, if you look from above, it looks like a ripple. So in the center, we have a bioceramic dome. And inside this dome, there's a seed library and a physical library. And the seed library holds like the genetic diversity of plants that have been overlooked and mistreated. And the library holds all this ecological knowledge. And around this dome is all these rings of native plants. So basically, humans are the conduit. You know, the information, the ecological knowledge is shared outwards. You know, people come to this place and learn about these plants and then go out into the garden and take the seed and go and spread these plants outwards. So the idea is not only to spread these seeds and ecological knowledge from a central place, but also inspire more projects outwards. And we just completed Ripple Project, which started as this volunteer thing for this project for Burning Man. After we learned that we were in the top 10 to build a permanent installation at Burning Man's new plot of land fly ranch, we formed Ripple Project LLC. So it's like 1-year-old company. And we just did our second garden, a medicine garden for the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, just an hour south of where Burning Man is in Nixon, Nevada. And we're just really excited about the potential to, be able to share and create spaces with people that are passionate about plants and how they can heal each other, heal ourselves, and heal the land. So yeah, we're and just one plug before I end, Morgan Biershank is on the Rebuild Network also giving a talk, and he's like the founder of GeoShip Domes, the dome right in the center. So yeah, lots of connections. I'm excited to be here and network with you all. If you need native plants and that kind of thing and green infrastructure, hit us up. That's what we do.
Rafael, it's very curious to hear what you put at the center of your community, being like the plants themselves that ripple out and seed other projects and the rest of the project itself. Matthew, when I was looking at your project yesterday, what really marked me was that you put a fire at the center of your community. And so this idea of when we are building, coming from the seed and going all the way out, we can really tell as founders and as visionaries what we believe to be the most important component of culture setting when it comes to what it is that we put at the center of our communities. Lola and Patricia, we can go into this a little bit more later, but I'm very curious to know what it is that you place at the center of your community in terms of being able to ripple out your own seeds. We'll get to this in a moment, but I just thought that it was an interesting observation. Patricia Parkinson, are you on the call, love?
I am.
Hi. So
Hi.
Nice to meet you. I think all of us have a pretty good idea of the design studio and its acceleration in inspiration and being able to bring people together. But if you would love to give us a brief overview of Design Science Studios and also La Tierra, mi amor.
It's really nice to be with everyone on the call. I am one of the co-stewards of the Design Science Studio, which I imagine some of you are familiar with, alongside Nico and Roxy and many others, which is, in case you don't know, an educational incubator for artists in partnership with the Buckminster Fuller Institute. And a couple years ago, we started developing the dream for a regenerative village in Costa Rica, which I'm just going to take a hint out of Lola's book and share my screen for a moment, because Nico specifically has led the most incredible representation of this village on a new website that if you're more interested in, you can look up, which is latierra.life. Which is meant to be a beacon of hope and a place to come into closer living systems with nature. And as we talk today in the panel, the two parts of the regenerative village that are most related to a landing of the DSS community is Agora, which would be kind of the knowledge center of the village, and the Land of O, which would be an immersive experience in the forest. But there is, like future thinkers mentioned, quite a bit of complexity that I would not be able to go into in 2 minutes. So I just wanted to frame this beautiful vision for anyone to look up on their own. And because it might be relevant in the call come up, I thought I'd also mention I am a steward of another project in Canada where I live on Salt Spring Island. That's an off-grid community called Rhizome Springs, which has been in development for 2 years. And we actually have at the center of it a 55-foot custom zone that is the heart of our contact dance community on the island. And when not doing those two things, I also steward a civics consortium for civic innovators called Open Civics. Also, I'm a strategic advisor for Burning Man on governance and engagement. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Amazing. Wow. I am curious, in La Tierra, what is at the center of the community design? Do you know?
You know, I'm not even thinking about it at this moment in a physical sense, although I know there's a tree. And I haven't visited this plot of land, but Nico and Roxy have, and have told such incredible stories of this like massive tree in the center of the land. And I know that quite a bit of the development has been about revolving around that space.
Mm-hmm. Like a grandmother tree. Mm-hmm. Y Lola, ¿qué hay en el centro de la comunidad en Heredonia?
Hay una hacienda.
A farm.
Hay una, no, hacienda. It's a, there is an hacienda as a construction of the one that you saw in the video. It's like kind of the center of the community, because the development will come in the back, and then in the front it will be the permaculture garden in front. But right in the center is the house where is going to be the educative center.
So what I hear you say is that education and educational infrastructure is at the center of the community.
Ah, yes. I mean, you mean, I thought it was like in the physical, speaking physically. Yeah, no, like a conceptual, yeah. Conceptual is education, yes.
Yes, I think it's very representative to think of the center, like the heartbeat, what makes projects stay alive.
Education, exactly.
It's education, and everything else revolves around this. And this might be on a physical component, it may be a fire, or a farm, or plants, or a tree, or an educational component. But really, as community designers and experience designers, we know that at the center of it, let's be honest, it is the ability to communicate and make projects together, or make decisions together, rather. Yes. And my first question to the panel is, I'm hearing that some projects are NGOs, other are LLCs, and I'd love to get into the legal structure, because I think most people that are thinking, okay, I want to build a community, but then, and we understand that the world is changing so fast. What will the new earth become in terms of legal alternatives there is? And so we're playing with what exists, like LLCs and C Corps and land trusts and whatnot. And we are also reinventing what is possible so that we can steward the earth in new and more resilient ways. Let's move into this first, just to see what is the legal structure for each of the projects in maybe 1 minute, muy rapidito. And Lola, can we start with you, and then you can nominate somebody else?
Yes, Hedonia is a non-for-profit organization, and Hedonia celebrates the fundraiser events around the world. But Hedonia is a first, we open a corporation in United States, and is raising funds in this corporation. But then we are also opening a SAPI in Mexico, what is like an LLC, but it's like for promote investment. If I don't know how to say it in English, but it's a specific company, because you need a Mexican company to buy the property. But then to raise the funds was better to do it with the American one. So then the American company become a shareholder of the Mexican one. And yeah, that's more or less the structure.
Thank you. But at the base of it, it is an NGO.
And like a 20 is a plan. A 25% of the incomes of Hedonia will go to the NGO Hedone. It's related, but it's not 100% that. It's also part of investment that is going to have a return of investment for the investor. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Can you nominate somebody else on the panel? Sit, Matthew. We can go with Matthew.
Sure, yeah. Ripple Project is an LLC currently, and it's a small team of about 10 people and connected to a much larger network. So we do have, we are fiscally sponsored by Faraway Projects, who some of you may have heard of. They fiscally sponsor a lot of projects. They're an awesome organization. So we do have nonprofit tax exempt status through Faraway Projects, but we are, for the time being, staying as a for-profit until we really decide that nonprofit would be the best way to operate. And eventually down the line, you know, this is probably a 5-year goal. 3 to 5 years is potentially looking into more of a multi-stakeholder cooperative, but it's too much to get into right now. You know, we just want to focus on our work and have a collective internal structure.
Thank you. What about you, Rafael? Sorry, let's see. Does anybody on the panel have a land trust? No. Okay. And Mike, well, how is Future Thinkers designed in terms of legal structure for the land-based community?
So there's an LLC, Canadian LLC, that owns the land, and that gave us the most flexibility to do what we wanted with the commercial zoning of that area. You know, we wanted to go the nonprofit route, but we were just too restricted in what we wanted to do. So we're investigating faith-based organizations, and there's another term for it. Maybe someone can help me with that.
Ministry?
Yeah, a ministry, but there's another type. It's basically it's a private membership association. That's what it is. PMA. So we're investigating that. There's a lot of difficulties that we're facing trying to do what we want to do in Canada. So we're looking to incorporate now in Panama. There's also a big crypto part of this, and you know, North America is starting to really crack down on crypto. So we're trying to, I don't know, figure out a way around that a little bit. So a combination of a PMA and a DAO is really what we're thinking about now, where the NFT is a membership to the PMA. It represents your membership to the PMA. Okay,
beautiful. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into that, actually, going into discussing governance and decision making. But before we go, well, I'll come back to you right now. Patricia, how is La Tierra designed in terms of legal structure? How do you create a base for this incredible project, knowing that it may change as the future changes? What are the legal structures that you have in place for this?
Currently with La Tierra, it's a combination of an SPV at the center of the village, as well as a land trust. I should have spoken into that earlier. And then in partnership with DSS. DSS is currently a nonprofit with a fiscal sponsor, that is the Buckminster Fuller Institute. So it's a combination of different players and vehicles at the heart of that village. And then in Rhizome's case, it is an LLC in Canada at the moment. But the intention also for La Tierra is to incorporate fundamentally a DAO into that structure.
Okay, beautiful. Yes, I want to dive into the DAO just a little bit. I think that the legal structure represents our roots. You know, at the end of the day, we want to have things that are rooted so that we can be exchanging a common understanding, even if the legal rhetoric is quite dense at times and doesn't represent or reflect the desire at times that we have to be able to steward the land. But once we have these structures in place and we learn from one another of what is working, what is also evolving into our conscious field, like the ministry, then we can get into a more a discussion about how we make decisions as community. I'm not sure how many people you're looking into for Fly Ripple, Rafael. But I know that Lola has 140 lots. La Tierra too, ¿verdad? It's like 150 lots or something of the sort. Patricia, how many people in your community?
We are still in our early formation stages. Maybe Nico or Roxy want to speak into some of the intentions around size. Call them to jump in if they want to.
It can be like approximately, just so that we know the amount, the size. I think it's around like 120 or something of the sort. So
yeah, it's the numbers. Why I'm a little confused in the moment. It's a combination of people that are permanently living on the land, people visiting the land for like residency type periods, and then people that are coming to visit the land in shorter times periods. But I would say it's going to be roughly in the couple hundred range.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And for Project Ka, we're looking at 25 homes. With Momentum, it's always been like 30 to 50 people is our happy place. And there's discussion over, different models for different amounts of people in a community. And the DAO is something that's coming on super strong in our modern times, like using technology to be able to measure participation and measure presence and so on and so forth. So my question, and I think we can start with future thinkers because you guys have gone through this a lot with your DAO and your NFT. How do you use the Web3 space to create a way of decision making that works for your community? Can you explain your governance model a little bit with the Web3 space?
This is a huge thing to discuss. So it's really like, if you want to be doing this for a while, that might happen. Okay, so I've been designing the DAO project for about 2 years now, playing with different governance models, and it's been really difficult to land on one. And there's a problem in the DAO crypto space in that they think everything has to be absolutely perfectly decentralized. Like it's at the extreme of decentralization. And if you're not accomplishing that, you're failing. So I want to play with different governance structures. So I basically taught myself to code in the last year so that I could rapidly deploy different interfaces, different modules of different governance systems for any given set of decisions that the DAO might have. So that's kind of what our project has turned into, is like this experimental lab for governance where we can just rapidly try things and split test them against each other too. So we want to just do quick, dirty, cheap lessons and experiments in governance. Yeah, the NFT, I thought I wanted to build a lot into the NFT itself and have all this governance take place on chain. And I've gone completely the other direction. So I'm building an entire platform on WordPress, which is fully off chain. And the NFTs are nothing more than a token gating, an access token for the entire platform. There's no reason to keep all discussion on chain. And then querying the chain can be a pain in the ass. So I didn't want to do that. And then building in ChatGPT as like a governance assistance. So I would give ChatGPT access to all proposals, all public or community level communications, all call transcripts. And you can do things like conflict mediation using ChatGPT. I've tried it. I said, pretend you're a nonviolent communication moderator and help me through this problem, or help me communicate an issue I'm having with another member more effectively. And it's able to do that very effectively. So we're trying to build that into the platform to just get through some of the things that slow DAOs down and just move through quickly. And I think it's able to do that quite effectively. So that's pretty much. Yeah.
Before I move on to the next person, what slows DAOs down? What are some common things that slow DAOs down?
Maximalism with decentralization, thinking that there should be nobody in charge. So everyone just kind of searches for a leader because that's what humans naturally do. And no one wants to step up and be a leader. And if someone does, then they get beat down like a crab in a bucket. So that's, yeah, that's an issue. I would say onboarding is another issue. I've been really investigating what issues DAOs are having. It's an insanely, if you get 15,000 members in a DAO, you have an insanely complex organization on your hands. And if you really adhere to decentralization, you have essentially the most bureaucratic process, because the only thing people can do to lead in a DAO is to make more and more complex rule sets. So we're trying to go with minimum viable bureaucracy and allow people to be empowered and allow leaders to pop up and seek forgiveness, not permission, to be able to do their work. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Okay, great. Rafael, how is the governance model structured in the Fly Ripple project? Are you using the DAO? Are you using the Web3 space? Can you give us an overview?
Yeah, sure. So basically for a year and a half, I should clarify that it's, we have a small volunteer group that's, starting to do projects in different places. We haven't, conceived of the idea of having a village potentially, but we'd plug in with different groups like you all or, GeoShip, to be able to bring in that infrastructure, native plant infrastructure. But on our projects that we're doing, like the project at Fly Ranch and the Medicine Garden, we've basically branched off from a consensus model with various sub-teams to a consent model that's more project-based, because we started with this original project at Fly Ranch for the Ripple base. It's the main project. And so we had like 9 sub-teams, we had groups tackling all the different areas of this project. And then it was consensus. So we had we would write proposals and share them with everyone. And we had a voting process for, when a majority was reached on a proposal, it would go forward. And that was effective as a first step, but we've now been evolving because we've now been taking on new projects like this Medicine Garden for the Paiute tribe. So it became larger than just one project. So we've now separated into project-based teams that are handling different things, and they have their own self-organized structure. And we've gotten away from the consensus model to move towards a consent model, because it's become too multifaceted for everyone on the team to have all the information needed to vote on every topic. There's too much for everyone to know. So that's why we've moved into consent model, where everyone's kind of like you were saying, Mike, everyone's doing their own work and putting things out to the team. And if it aligns with the mission and what we're doing, people put forward that. And if people want you to slow down and stop, and we need to stop and have more conversations about a decision before it's made, and anyone can do that. And then it's halted to have more discussions. So as the project's been expanding and the team's expanded, consent model has been what we're working towards. So.
And are you using the Web3 space?
No, it's all on internal, just communications on no Web3.
And are you still using the same sub-teams that you had initially started with?
No, we dissolved our sub-teams, and we moved from that to project team. So like the Ripple base at Fly Ranch is now one project team, which we're waiting on fundraising, and that will likely still have its different kind of different leads in different areas. But now we have a separate project that has its own team structure. So we kind of do have sub teams, but they're our team is expanding into larger project-based teams, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, it must be quite the adventure to be able to communicate all of these teams if you're not all on the same location without using the Web3 space. But I'm assuming that the teams mustn't be too big for it to be able to create synergy. How big are each project, for example? Like how many team members would there be?
So basically, well, I'll use the Ripple base, you know, we're waiting, Burning Man's doing a large fundraising event for all the infrastructure projects there. So, you know, we haven't fully built out that team yet. I could see that being probably 5 to 7 really intensely committed design and builders, and a much larger network connected, probably, you know, 30 people that are, you know, involved designing, mentoring. And that's just why we're building, you know, it'll be much larger when it's built fully. It's about a 5-year time span we're looking to build. And then for the medicine garden that we're building with the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, I'd say there's probably 20 main collaborators, and it's, you know, a couple horticulturalists, landscape architect, you know, a few of us systems ecologists and project managers, and then, you know, several people from the tribe, you know, teachers, museum directors, different, and then other partners, and different, you know, all of our mentors in the different fields. So there's about 20 people working on that project. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. I'd love to dive in more on when I speak on the challenges that we face as community builders and designers. What challenges have come up, you know, in the way that people are able to come into consent together. But we'll get to this in a moment. Lola, me encantaría saber, what is the governance model that you have in your project in Mexico? Are you using the Web3 space? How do you come to decisions together within your team?
Yeah, we have the board of the founder investor plus the voice of Hedone that also considered the people who have been helping from the beginning. So we together wrote rules, and then is also depend of the topic. We will be taking decision within just the board or with the community, no? So it's like this, like if it's for more insider details of how to run the retreat center of the thematic, this we can do between us, but then like I imagine, I hope not, but it's a member that we is not welcome anymore, imagine, because it's flip and it's making some weird behavior, then this kind of decision will be done by the whole community. You know, this is what we are agreeing. And we use the Web3, yes. We have different NFTs. One is for owning your lot, is one collection, and then there is another one for membership that then this gives you access to entry and also a right to vote. So yeah, this is the difference.
Okay, and perfect. Then your token is a utility-based token that is also linked to governance and the ability to use the land and the space.
Exactly.
Okay. And did you design that token yourself, or what space? How did you, as a budding community builder, go about making your first token, for example?
Well, the tokens, the ones for the land is pictures, a selection of pictures of different moments of hidden events, and then it's because the plots had the shape of an hexagon, so they are like kind of a window in an hexagon, no? With this different moment with a bit of filter, but it's come from pictures. And then with the memberships, what we want to create is the face of the member in AI design with the outfit, no, of the like a character, but is created by AI. So they just have your face when you are a member. Yeah.
Increíble. Wow, what an adventure.
It's fun. I love that.
Thank you. Okay, Patricia, can you give us an insight on governance models and the use or not of Web3 space within La Tierra?
La Tierra is still in its early formation steps. So a lot of where we're at right now is conceptual and experimental, but at its core of the design would be a board. And then separately a DAO, which would be Web3, obviously, over time, that in which all community members, both living on land and extended in the global community, would be a part of.
Beautiful. Okay, well, in this sense, guys, we can, I mean, this is a whole different portal. We can talk about DAO and Web3, but it is interesting to hear that most of us are considering or already actively using the DAO and the Web3 into our design, which brings in itself a whole different set of challenges. And this is where I would really like to dive in a little bit now. It's in our quest to build a physical space, to consolidate our people. It had to start with a vision, and then came the action. And my question to this beautiful panel is, what are top 3 challenges that you have faced creating this vision, even if it's still in concept, even if it's like already created and running? What are the challenges that you learned or that you went through that you were able to come out of and say, you know, if I were to talk to me 5 or 10 years ago, this is the advice that I would give to myself? And I think from this, all of our listeners and the people listening to the recordings would take a lot of solutions from our own challenges. And I'll go ahead and start even con Lola. Lola, can you give us an overview as well of the challenges that you've gone through in creating this very inspiring but alternative community? Give us a little insight.
Well, the challenge is very difficult for me as an artist because we want to make the event. I'm talking more about Hedonate, that I really have the trajectory no longer, and is what end up in Hedonia, but the Hedonia is still in very early state, no. So for me, the challenge was raise funds because we were spending so much making the event fantastic. And then at the end, it's taking a long time to produce the movie I want, for example, because I'm still looking for the formula to be profitable, to make the actual actions that it have to happen very soon, and I need to really find the formula. And it's this. It's also because in the beginning, you need to reinvest in and now is getting the time that we already have all this investment done, and then we can start, collecting the fruits. And then, so it was hard, but yeah, this is something that I will do again. I will start the whole journey again. It was good. And then also the trust for me was challenging to because I was very trustable with everybody, and then when you do something in collective, sometimes there is some people that I should be more careful with making a proper test in the good intentions, no, and because yeah, I also had a big challenge with some relationships, and yeah, that was mostly the hard part, but the rest quite nice. I mean, the raising money part also, with the investor bringing all this capital into the project, is I think the biggest one that I'm going through right now, no?
Yeah, relationships, profitability, and I think what we're all at, and is a continuous process, is raising the money as the world and the planetary shift of consciousness and agreement of what value is. So that definitely is a challenge, but also an opportunity, as we are in this like tuning times, this tide that's changing within our world. And of course, the relationship component is something that is something that it's not going to go away. It's going to be more harmonious as we find the right language and right systems to hold the opinions and needs and desires of all humans in play. So yes, I definitely agree with you, and I am also in the same boat, and already relate to your challenges because I'm in the same boat as well, and seeing that these are, what is normal. Of course, we don't really create normal projects, but it is an active component of resilience within our projects to create what it is that we're creating. So
exactly.
Rafael, what are some of the greater challenges that you've had to overcome so far, and what lessons would you give yourself 5 to 10 years ago?
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking deeply about it, and I guess I would echo one thing Lola just said, just about with relationships and trust with people. There was a couple times when, on our team structure, we kept the doors open. You can imagine doors open in a circle all around. It was just like, let's let people in on what we're doing. And that brought in so many amazing voices. And however, there was a few times, with long stretches of time in between, where people would come, usually older folks, and you really thought that you got to know someone and could really trust them. And even after years of working together, a year plus, and then, when things go wrong, you really can see where their true intentions lie, like you were saying, Lola. So I definitely resonate with that. And, it's just something to be careful about, of, you don't always know that you can trust people, and you don't, their intentions can often be lying in, taking advantage or exploiting to benefit themselves for their reputation, or getting into some, network, or looking to get money out of something. And, that's rampant all over. You can see it all over the world. It's the ego manifesting itself. So that was a big thing that we've had to learn the hard way. There's been a couple hard situations, but I'm glad they happened, because they were necessary for us to get to that place of realizing that as a group structure. So we've not locked our doors, but we're figuring out how we want them to open and close with a kind of a smaller team structure, and to be more protective, and as we navigate the next few years. So, and then, that's kind of in a collective space. That's one major challenge. And then I'll just quickly add that, that same kind of thing, that same principle, I would say, is true on a personal level in working in a collective space. Through ups and downs and hardships and growth, you really get to see all the sides of yourself too in collaboration. So, one of, like, one of the other co-founders of Ripple Project, Jacob Mass and I, we put in so many hours on this project, and we really got to see all different sides of each other, and we realized we have these kind of opposing energies, which is why we work really well together. And we had to talk through so many things. Like, I learned more about myself working with him and with other people in the team than I would have been able to do alone. So, but there was times when it was hard and I almost quit, but so I'd say the biggest learning thing there is just be patient and through the weather. And what I told myself to just 5 years ago, just commitment is a beautiful thing. When you can commit something through all the storms, you can find a sense of peace, and let things go. And so, yeah, trust, commitment, and self-reflection. I'd say those are some of the biggest challenges and learning opportunities that I've seen.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and riffing off that, is how do we refill our own cup, or release whatever is in the cup, so that we come as an empty cup for these projects to emerge. And going through relationships and partnerships and seeing ourselves too as leaders, because we come in subconsciously thinking we know ourselves, and then with the challenges as they arrive, like, well, this is how I handle that thing, or this is how, this is a part of me that perhaps I didn't see so much of. And there are opportunities for contemplation over who we are beyond the visionary, but as leaders of our teams as well. And it's really interesting to think of this, because it's not that we have found the right tools for conflict mediation and that now we have all the answers. It's more like this is going to be fine-tuned and polished for the duration of our projects as new members come in and new partners come in. So we just become better and better at being more calm within the storm, I would say, in my opinion. So, and it makes the tech and the structures seem easy at times, because at least those have linear, kind of understanding and verbiage that we can get. But when it comes to the complexity and multidimensionality of the human spirit coming in, all of a sudden you're navigating it, you're dancing, and you might not have learned the steps to dance this thing, So resonate with you very much, Rafael. And we can start seeing the connection between Lola and Rafael over the things that are the challenges. They're not so much the financing and the structures. It's the humaning. It's the mirrors. And maybe, in such a way to ask, like, why do we choose to build communities when what we are refractions of a mirror, and a lot of them around us at all times. So what is it about us that wants to see that as leaders, right? Anyway, I can go on and on about this. I have my own take on why we choose to build these communities, but I'd love to hear, Patricia, I know you're new in La Tierra and design sciences, but what challenges have come up within the actualization of the vision that you may, that you could give yourself advice a few years ago?
Because of the scale and complexity of the village, we wanted and needed to bring in a lot of very diverse subject matter experts to share their ideas to inform our master plan, which would lead to the securing of land and the other partners. And we wanted to make sure that the value of these rare collaborative collisions was felt even prior to the development being realized. So this felt like a worthwhile exercise and ongoing relationship for people to continue. So there was a challenge there in finding out those incentive structures and the way that we could be spreading that value early on, whereas development may take very many years. And the way that we were able to navigate that is by designing and hosting a series of design sprints on different considerations around the village building and open sourcing them all. So both the raw material of what happened in those design sprints and Miro is now available to the public, as well as what's kind of referred to more as the Village OS, and the behind the scenes thinking and rationale of how that was synthesized in the end. So I think that there's a big value there in telling the story of what you're doing while you're doing it, like learning out loud. And then the other challenge that comes to mind with La Tierra is there's like a chicken before the egg scenario where we want to develop a master plan that is informed enough to secure investors or the land itself. It has to be place specific, but not to say that we are tied to a particular piece of land. We are somewhat agnostic to the right land and partners that come to play. So there's a little bit of a challenge in like what level is our development in our research and all these different things, like very specifically place specific versus gives us the ability to pivot to another area if that becomes in our development cycle like more appropriate for the project. So that's an interesting one. I think we're still grappling with because we're early in development. But I did want to speak into some of the more practical challenges that I'm also experiencing with Rhizome because we're over 2 years now into like physical land development. And it's been so humbling to be thinking about master planning of this 40-acre space while needing to witness and listen to the land. And it's like water flows, sunlight, and just actually feel into the space and have that inform our process rather than like imposing what we want and like trying to terraform everything to our vision. And then on the other side, I'm on a small island of mostly hippies and people who do not spend a lot of time on technology and are calling in solutions of wanting to be collectively governed and contribute, but not familiar with Web3, and if anything, maybe a little bit hesitant about it. So how to go about educating and like seeding those suggestions in a way that people can get a little bit familiar for a longer term trajectory if it is appropriate. And the last thing that comes to mind there is, in the case again of Rhizome Springs, there is no sense of formal co-ownership of the land at this point. It's being stewarded on behalf of community, and we need community to contribute to work parties, like building of particular things at particular times. And how do we incentivize people in a meaningful and like sincere way to contribute? And for us, the solution has been in articulating a really clear vision and sharing that and have people align around that shared sense of purpose.
Thank you. Yeah, we had the same conundrum over the chicken or the egg situation with COD because we knew we wanted X, Y, Z. And so we designed and manifested with this in mind, but we didn't have the proper piece of land quite yet. And at the end of the day, though, there's a manifestation that comes through that when you do put on paper everything that you do want, it does end up it comes your way. And it makes sense when it arrives. It's like a full yes. I want to share some of my own challenges with Project Ka and Momentum. There's a truck just passing by, so maybe this is a good moment to take a breath together since we've been talking now for over an hour. So we'll just, while it passes, let's take a moment and take a deep breath in. And exhale everything out. We can't solve the problems of the world with the same level of consciousness that created them. That is like one of my favorite quotes, and it guides me in so many moments of my life. And what it means to me is that in order for us to, as leaders, to be able to see beyond ourselves, we need to have the courage to look at the blind spots. And these are, there's different tactics for everybody. Some people like to sit in medicine. Some people like to just meditate for a few moments a day. But it's about taking ourselves out of our comfort zone so that we can start seeing what it is that we don't see. And so with 8 years of being with Momentum, it got and it was good. We were full all the time for 8 years in like 5 different countries, and things were working. We really tapped into a market that nobody else had done for many years. And it became to a point where it really hit hard when COVID came, that the blind spots were so obvious. They were so obvious, like food and water. How can I not have thought about this? How can I not know how to grow my own tomato or potato to be able to feed my community? And I think for me, one of the challenges is being able to see these blind spots. And especially as these projects evolve, like the day that La Tierra's land does come, or that I don't know, the problems that arise, whether it's anywhere in the world, for with people, with structures, with legal, whatever. How do we make sure to continue to have a mindset that opens opportunities for us to reframe ourselves over and over and over again? And my challenge is that when it became comfortable with momentum, I hadn't looked into the blind spots for a while. So when Project Ka, someone, Lola's asking for Project Ka, I'll send you the link. It's projectka.earth. And that we really didn't know what we didn't know, and I felt like a tiny little baby, and still do. And so, Patricia, I really agree with you that one of the solutions that I would give myself 5 years ago, 10 years ago is, hey, Gabby, it's okay to pay for the right skills on the team, or bring in the external skills instead of having it be your friends that are so motivated and inspired and they want to just do it and they're all in. But at sometimes it is best to go and look for those that do have the 10, 15, 20 years experience in the tech space, in the farming space, instead of it being this like grassroots movement, which was Momentum Collective and it worked really well for where we're at. But now it's time to look for the right skill set so that when the blind spots do get activated, I have the right anchor point to save me out of the water type of thing, or us out of the water. So thought I would share there. Okay, and I think Mike, you're up next, my love. What can you give us like nuggets, golden nuggets of the challenges and solutions that you have been able to find within your way?
Well, the podcast was really helpful in identifying things early on. So we knew the cultural element, the shadow, repression, archetypal psychology, masculine, feminine divide, like all of these things were going to play roles in the community. So before we ever started it, we started studying those subjects, and we made several courses and actually taught courses on shadow work and sovereignty, and helping people to work through their own thing before they start looking at the rest of the community and pointing fingers externally. So that's actually why we made the NFT for the project, archetypal masks, because a lot of the process that we teach is about removing masks, about investigating your own personality pieces and figuring out what is you and what is not you, and removing the parts that are not you. So that's, the archetypal characters inside of a community aren't always identifiable at the beginning. They're difficult, and a lot of people are surprised. So if you kind of pay attention to the archetypes before you get into a project like that, it's a lot easier to see when people are going to be a problem, or when they're going to be, when they're trying to figure out themselves and how they participate in a community. So yeah, I feel like the courses have now become almost like a filter mechanism for the village.
That's incredible. Are those courses available to other community leaders or community? What are they called? Any links to the course that I can leave you?
Sure, I'll put the links in the chat. We're going through a bit of a remodel of everything, so it's a little we haven't promoted it in a while. It's a little bit dead, but make sure that links are right.
Okay. Any other challenges that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, this one may be a little controversial, but our thing has always attracted kind of the hippie to the group, and I tend to find a very, very low work ethic among people who are wanting everything to be about love and light and get along and all of this stuff, and then to try and actually act on anything is really difficult. So that's why we actually called it the Smart Village entirely, because before it was a regenerative, village project, and it ended up being very difficult to get anything done when that was the branding of it. So a little more tech entrepreneurial focused has given us the ability to execute a lot more in groups. So it's not that I just love tech so much, it's that it's a branding solution.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you to everybody. Yeah, that's fascinating. We've got maybe 10, 12 minutes left together. And I'd like to, one of my favorite questions to ask somebody that is in my field that inspires me, and that is walking the talk, is, inspiration breeds inspiration as much as fear breeds fear, as much as love breeds love. Everything is more of itself in this perpetual exponential expansion, right? And I would love to, yes, have some time to have the audience ask questions, and then also to have you guys ask each other questions over anything that has been the sources of inspiration for you to be able to do what you're doing. For example, one of the ones I always ask anyone that is of high inspiration to me is, what are the 3 books or the podcast that has most geared and shaped you to do what it is that you do. I'd like to ask this one last question. We'll open up to everybody else after, and let's just keep going with you, Mike. What are 3 books, podcasts that really inspired you to do what you do?
Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damnedest Thing by Jed McKenna will destroy your life, and it's totally worth it. That one is really hard to recommend, and I'm very kind of careless with it, just throwing it out there like this. But I mean, if you feel called to a very pragmatic spiritual journey, I would say that's easily the best series of books I've ever read. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that one's so classic, so standard. I'll have to think about the third one, but books like Nonviolent Communication come up, Atomic Habits. I find the crossover between spiritual and like self-development books is not obvious, but very connected. Mm-hmm. So I tend to go both directions, like highly entrepreneurial and highly spiritual.
What was the first one?
Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damnedest Thing by Jed McKenna. There are 3 books. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Lola, mi amor, ¿cuáles son what are you saying? 3 books, podcasts, inspirations that led you to where you are today?
Well, first one, I think it was 3 Essays of Sexual Theory by Sigmund Freud. When I read it when I was 9, and I always said that was the very beginning of hedonism. So they was really definitely a big inspiration that healed my traumas in first place. Then it was Ethical Slut was a very good one as well to start at hedonism. The Ethical Slut.
The Ethical Slut, yeah.
Yes, and I think the Diario de un Genio, the Diary of a Genius from Salvador Dali, also made me be a lot who I am, I think. I'm dreaming with this surreal world that I want to create. Yeah, I think those 3.
Perfecto, gracias. Rafael. Is he still with us, Rafael?
A lot of mine are probably more like on my personal spiritual quest, which has kind of been funneling into everything. But definitely the first one that kind of set the tone for everything else for me about a decade ago was A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, talking about how like the ego has a function, and it's also time to move past, like acknowledge it, that it's there, but move into like a larger collective consciousness, and just kind of mastering your mind, not being the servant to it, as it said. So yeah, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I've sent that to like a dozen people. I'd recommend that. If there's one recommendation, it'd be that. I've really been liking the Ram Dass podcast on Spotify. There's like 200 episodes of all of his lectures. They're very peaceful and soothing, though very meditational. And he gets into a whole wealth of every kind of topic you can imagine. And right now I'm only on chapter 3, but and I know I'm throwing out big names that you guys probably heard, but yeah, Mind Hallucinogens and the I Ching by Terence McKenna. And he's talking about how, you know, a lot about shamanism and, you know, getting back to like ancient roots, and how in modern society there's like a need for shamanism, but there's not really a space for it in modern society, at least in you know, in America. It's taboo, you know, to be super in touch with your spiritual side and with, you know, ceremonial plants. So yeah, that's one I'm just digging into now. I'd recommend.
As McKenna is a genius, especially his last interview. You've seen that one? The last interview on the acceleration of time and the singularity point of civilization. It's a good one.
Time wave theory.
YouTube. Perfect. Yeah, and these big names are big names for a reason. Let's just put it that way. And Patricia, what about you, love? Last question, and then we'll open it up.
I have to start by saying the greatest inspiration for me in this journey has actually been coming across the Design Science Studio. Before I joined as a steward, I was a cohort member the previous year. And at the time, I was leading design for a metaverse platform called Topia, hoping to be like a digital home for communities. And it just completely reframed for me my direction. I took a years-long sabbatical, and all my projects now have a regenerative focus. So very close to my heart, and I'm grateful to be included in that now its leadership. But for books, the things that come to mind are in 2015, I started traveling as a digital nomad and came across a book called Who Owns the Future by Jaron Lanier that reshaped the way that I look at the potentiality of our development. It's a little bit older of an artifact, but still quite valuable for those that want to pick it up. In the last couple of years, I have been quite enjoyed Radical Wholeness by Philip Shepherd. Which I don't have enough time to go into, but let's just say it was a random stumble, and I'm very grateful that I had come upon it. And more recently, and I actually am like pretty much constantly reading this book for the last year, is Building the Cathedral.
Yes.
It's Sadie Ellen Moon, I think, and Brandon Gren Dempsey, who's speaking with others, PST 1:30, I think today. But just the concept of metamodern spirituality and us developing our new cultural myths and personal myths has been foundational for me in everything I've moved forward and done since coming across that beautiful artifact.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very good. If you guys can all write those books down too in the chat, and we'll be able to have that accessible. And as for me, The Alchemist, obviously, such a beautiful book that changed my life. And the Marie Magdalene manuscript is the seed for Project Ka. It also, you know, absolutely revolutionized my life on ancient rituals of Egypt and holding and projecting your light body, and the conscious use of feelings and emotions by possibility management. They're incredible on the archetypes of emotions and being able to use your feelings to be in the present moment and to be the archetype that you want to be in all moments. So I love that question. All amazing books. Thank you so much. And we have like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I'm sorry to the audience that I took a little bit more time in talking and asking questions, but I hope that this was useful for you. But we do have 5 minutes, so if you have any questions, you more than welcome to speak up. Just unmute yourself and ask the questions to our beautiful panel. And also the panel can ask itself questions too.
Which country are we gonna meet up in to do this in person? Or which continent?
Let's meet in your place. We are all going to Barniman, no? If it's
I
close
like
by,
that.
I would love to. I would
like
love to stop
post
by
word.
in the Flying Ranch before or after.
Deal. But you're all invited.
You need some more geodesic domes so we can all stay.
Nice background. I think we should also meet at Kiss Camp at Burning Man. It's one of the best camps, and me and Nico will be there. Probably Patricia. I mentioned.
Kiss camp, kiss camp.
Como un besito.
Un besito,
Kiss
kiss camp. Okay. I will find you there. I will be in Sahar camp. It's gonna be a hedonic party on Tuesday or Thursday. I will announce when we decide.
Tuesday, make it Tuesday.
Tuesday,
cool.
okay.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Okay. What is there anybody else on the panel that wanted to ask maybe one or two more questions to each other, since we've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes? Is there something that's been coming up that spiked your curiosity?
I'm curious to know from the other panelists, one thing that they're walking away with that they learned during this time listening to others.
Great question.
I'm super happy to hear people use the word resilience so much. Like that's, if you really dive into what that subject is about, it's difficult, it's unattractive, it's hard to market that as a thing that people should use. So I'm just really encouraged hearing that term a lot.
Well, I'm definitely walking away with a desire to connect more with each of you individually, to go to Mexico and go see this amazing place that you've created, Lola. And I'm walking away with an understanding that we're visionaries, and we are all we're walking the same path in many ways, and that our lessons can help each other grow. So this extended network with Rebuild is an amazing gift. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And really see this platform like super useful for all of us to get connected and become more powerful. And yeah, I really appreciate this and being part of it. So happy.
What about you, Patricia? You asked the question.
Yes. Just the felt sense of belonging, camaraderie, and being on this path together in different places. And more specifically, I've been fangirling of Future Thinkers community for quite some time. So this is a nice poke to actually reach out, maybe visit in person.
It's funny, we're hermits, so it's weird to we forget that we even have a podcast. We're just heads down doing our thing.
Okay. Well, I think King must.
I'll just echo what you all said, that it's really inspiring to see so many people here together with their own amazing projects they're working on. And so thanks for having this and holding this space for everyone. It's so easy to get stuck in your silo and your body of work, and then you step out and you're like, oh yeah, there's so many of us in our species that are trying to do the same thing in a different corner of the earth, so I think it's important we link up, because we're all in this together but so until we realize it.
Yes. Well, this is the beginning of new friendships, and thank you guys so much for being here, for opening your hearts, for being vulnerable, and for allowing me to navigate whatever came up in the field as we went through this conversation. Thanks, Nico, for inviting me to do this. And yeah, may you be blessed on your way, be blessed in all of your projects, and be blessed in your spiritual calling for this legacy work that everyone here is doing. And yeah, on that note, let's take one last breath in together. Let's close down the eyes. And let's take a deep breath in, and then the last inch of breath that you take in, bring all of your awareness to the sounds that are furthest away from you. Behind and front, left and right, as above, so below. And on the exhale, the next exhale, you bring all of that awareness right back into the most important part of this entire universe, which is in your own center, in your own heart. And let's take a deep breath in. And exhale, open up your eyes. Thank you guys so much for this time together. And yeah, have an amazing day.